scriptures about respect and submission, or loving your wife as Christ loves the church. Being a kingdom citizen means you bring your whole life under the realm, under the umbrella and governance of God's kingdom. Does that make sense? So that means your finances, how you treat people, not just how you treat the person that you're trying to date. That means how you treat everybody, right? He's going to notice that. How are you going to be up in his face, smiling and grinning, trying to practice your words of affirmation, and then you petty to your sister? He's going to see that, right? Because that's your fruit. So just understand that kingdom dating is not just about spot cleaning your character. You can't spot clean your character. You have to bring your whole life under God's governance. Amen? Amen. Thank you, baby. So encouraging. All right, and then the last point I'm going to give before we kind of tag team the last couple. Oh, okay. So this kind of goes along the lines of what my husband was talking about when he was saying that God's not just going to drop somebody in your lap, right? Exposure is important. Exposure is very important. I don't know how you are expecting to, with your routine, it's just I go to church, and I go to work, and I come home, I'm with my dog, I'm with my kids, you know? You do that week after week after week, and you're expecting to go from that to married. Well, there's some steps in between there, right? You gotta have some people in your mix that you're at least socializing with, and I feel like in the world, that's kind of a no-brainer, but sometimes in the church, again, because we think God is gonna magically fill in all the blanks, we think God's gonna do that. God's just gonna introduce somebody. And then you hear stories like ours. You might even say, well, you know, we were introduced by a mutual friend. So you might just say, well, I want God to do that for me. But what if he doesn't? There are people in this church who had to go out and had to approach somebody or had to start a conversation. He doesn't do it that way every time, right? So you can't just take one example and say, see, because God did it for them, I know he's gonna do it for me that way, so I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm not. That's presuming that God is going to move a specific way in your life, and you don't know that he's going to do that. That's just being real. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, for instance, I love sisterhood. I wrote a book about sisterhood. I love it. But you can't give your girls every night of your weekend, okay? Give your girls Sunday brunch. Saturday, you need to do some other things. Get some men in your mix, right? It can't be sisters on Friday, sisters on Saturday, sisters on Sunday. That's not going to work, right? Thank you. It's not going to work that way. You have to be a bit more realistic than that, right? You have to get some people in your mix. Maybe you're used to saying no. Your coworker invited you to come watch the game. He's having some people over. Say yes, okay? Your sisters will be okay. Say yes. Get some people in your mix. Because truth be told, even though a mutual friend introduced us, I was getting to know somebody else when he came along, okay? I wasn't waiting. I wasn't sitting up in my room like Brandy, you know? I was getting to know people. And you know what, Drew? Weren't you kind of, you know what? I'm going to tell y'all the whole truth now. No, but we were actively dating is what I mean. We were actively putting ourselves out there. So it's important to do that. I would even, and I know everybody doesn't want to do this, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I would even personally recommend online dating. And do you know why I recommend it? My dad, Pastor Paul, he was the first person that told me that I needed to do online dating. Because years ago, I was living in Arizona, and I was going to a church at the time. It was really tiny. It was mainly like families, like married couples with kids. There were hardly any single people. Well, the single people were mainly teenagers. I'm a young adult looking to seriously date. And I just didn't have a lot of singles in my mix. I worked at a job that was mainly all women in the office, and that was my routine. So it was hard for me to just meet guys. So my dad said, you know what? You should try online dating. And I'm just throwing this out there for those who would be willing to try it. My best boyfriend was Jarrell Greer. But my second best was somebody that came from eHarmony. I'm just, a lot of people don't know that. I easily could have been one of those people that you see on the commercials, so-and-so got married. Because that was a good relationship. It really was. I mean, it was long distance, but Spirit Airlines worked it out for us. We just went back and forth, taking turns. That was a really good, I mean, he's married now. You know, the guy I'm talking about, he's married now, doing ministry with his wife in another state. But seminary graduate, amazing man of God, it just didn't work for the two of us. But I met him on eHarmony. And sometimes people are really afraid about like safety concerns. And let me tell you the thing about that. The thing that's going to keep you safe in dating is not how you meet them, it's your wisdom and your discernment. Because a lot of us put ourselves in dangerous situations, and a lot of us, we saw the signs. The worst situations we've been in, we saw the signs, we just didn't pay attention to them. And so I'm telling you, my worst relationship was somebody I met in church. Not just somebody I met in church, somebody I met not in this church, not in the state of California. I just go, woo, thank you, Jesus. See, that was wisdom.
So I'm looking around like, who was it?
Another state, I was living in another state at the time. But it was a man who was serving the pastor. You know, the man that walk in, look all important, carrying the pastor's Bible. I dated one of those, and let me tell you, when that thing ended, the pastor was calling and checking on my physical safety. That's how scary that situation was. So you have to carry your discernment with you, no matter where you meet the person. It's not about whether you met them online or in person, because there are wolves in the church. That's actually worse, because you're not expecting it in the church, right? So discernment is key. All right, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you. Can we give a round of applause to my wife? She's getting it. Okay, so real quick, I want to also piggyback off what she said about the online dating. I just interested to have similar stories that the best relationship I had before my amazing, beautiful wife. Same thing, it was an online dating situation, long-term relationship, but we had really, really good relationship with that.